Hello everyone, welcome to the English Globe. I hope you all are well and ready to learn something new today. In this podcast, we are going to talk about a very powerful topic that can help you grow not just in English, but also in your personal life. The topic is called the 5 pillars of a strong personal foundation. You might ask, what is a personal foundation? Well, just like a building needs a strong base to stand tall and strong, we also need a strong base in life to grow, to succeed, and to be happy. When your personal foundation is strong, it becomes easier to learn, to focus, and to feel good about yourself. So in today's episode, we will talk about the 5 most important things that help us build this strong foundation.
Hi everyone, this is Julia. I'm so happy to be here with you again. Today's topic is one of my favorites because it's not just about learning new English words, it's also about learning how to live better. Many people try to speak English fast, but they forget that real learning happens when your mind is clear, your habits are good, and your goals are strong. That's why this topic is very special. We are going to talk about 5 important parts of personal growth: self-awareness, discipline, purpose, emotional strength, and your support system. Don't worry if these words sound new or difficult right now. We will explain each one slowly, with easy examples, simple stories, and useful vocabulary. And we will speak in a way that is clear and easy to follow, even if you are just starting to learn English.
That's right, Julia. In this podcast, we don't just give you information. We give you understanding. So, if you're listening while walking, cooking, studying, or just relaxing, make sure you stay with us until the end. This is going to be a long and helpful journey. You will learn English in a natural way, and at the same time, you will learn how to become stronger, more focused, and more confident in your life. So take a deep breath, open your mind, and let's start this journey together. Are you ready, Julia?
Yes, Adam, I'm ready. And I hope all of our listeners are ready too. Before we start talking about the 5 pillars, let me ask you, Adam, what do you think makes a person strong on the inside?
That's a good question, Julia. I think a strong person is someone who knows who they are, someone who doesn't give up easily, someone who has dreams and follows them, someone who can control their emotions, and someone who knows how to ask for help when they need it. These are not things we are born with. These are things we learn and practice every day. And the best part is, anyone can build this kind of strength, even if your English is not perfect yet, even if you are just beginning. And that's what this podcast is all about. Growing together, step by step.
Beautifully said. Adam, so dear listener, we invite you to walk with us through this episode, one step at a time. We will learn new words, we will practice understanding, and we will talk about real things that can help you in your daily life. We want this podcast to be useful, simple, and enjoyable. So don't worry if you don't understand every word, just keep listening. You will improve day by day. And now let's begin with the first pillar of a strong personal foundation: self-awareness.
Before we begin talking about the first important pillar of a strong personal foundation, I think it would be a good idea for us to take a few moments to simply talk and connect in a relaxed and friendly way. Because having a short and easy conversation at the beginning of any lesson can help everyone feel more comfortable, especially those who are learning English as a second language and want to hear how real conversations sound in simple, everyday English. So, Julia, let me ask you something before we begin. How was your morning today? And did you do anything special or interesting before coming to the studio to record this episode?
Thank you, Adam, for asking. And yes, I had a very peaceful and quiet morning today, which is something I always try to enjoy and protect, especially when I know the day will be busy or full of activities, because how I start my morning really affects how I feel for the rest of the day. I woke up at around 6 o'clock, just as the sky was starting to brighten, and the first thing I did was open the window to let in some fresh air while I slowly made a cup of warm green tea, which always helps me to feel calm and focused. After that, I spent a few minutes doing some light stretching exercises in my living room while listening to peaceful instrumental music, which is something I've added to my daily routine because it helps me stay positive and clear-minded. What about you, Adam? I'm curious to know what your usual morning looks like and what habits you have that help you begin your day with good energy.
That really sounds like a wonderful and mindful way to begin the day, Julia. And I think it's great that you've created such a peaceful routine that supports your mental well-being, especially in a world where many people wake up and immediately rush into their phones or their work without taking a moment to just breathe and be present. For me, my mornings are a little bit more active, but they are also very important to me because I believe that how you spend the first hour of your day sets the tone for everything that comes after. I usually wake up around 5:30 in the morning, even if I went to bed late the night before, because I enjoy having quiet time when the world is still sleeping. I drink a glass of water to refresh my body, and then I put on my walking shoes and go outside for a short walk in the fresh morning air. And if the sky is clear, I like to pause and watch the sunrise, because it reminds me that every day is a new beginning and a new chance to grow. After that, I usually sit down with my notebook and write a few thoughts or goals for the day so that I feel organized and ready to take action.
That's so inspiring, Adam. And I really love how both of us have different ways to begin our mornings, but both routines help us feel strong, focused, and ready for the day, which is a perfect example of something we will talk about more in this episode: how good habits and small daily actions are part of building a strong personal foundation. And I think this is something our listeners can start to think about too. How do you start your morning? And is there anything small you could do to make your day better, like drinking water, writing a goal, or even just taking 1 minute to breathe deeply before rushing into work or school?
Exactly. Julia, and I want to say to all our listeners that even if you don't have a perfect morning routine right now, or even if you sometimes wake up late and feel stressed, that's completely okay, because we are all learning and growing together, and every small step you take toward improving your habits makes a big difference over time. So don't feel pressure to be perfect. Just try to be consistent, and even listening to this podcast today is already a step in the right direction, because you are choosing to learn, to improve your English, and to understand yourself better. And that's what building a personal foundation is really all about. Now that we've had a relaxing and friendly conversation to warm up, it's time for us to begin our deep and meaningful discussion about the 5 powerful pillars that create a strong personal foundation. And the first pillar we want to talk about is something very important, but sometimes hard to understand, especially if you are just beginning to learn about personal development, and that is self-awareness. Now, you might hear this word and think, what does self-awareness even mean? So let me explain it in the simplest way I can. Self-awareness means knowing who you are, knowing what you feel, and knowing why you do the things you do in your daily life. Because when you understand yourself better, it becomes easier to grow, to change, and to make better choices for your future.
That's a great way to explain it, Adam. And I want to add that self-awareness doesn't mean you have to know everything about yourself right now or be perfect all the time. It simply means that you start paying more attention to your own thoughts, your feelings, your habits, and your reactions. And the more you observe yourself with kindness and honesty, the more you begin to see who you really are and what you really need to feel happy, strong, and successful in life. For example, maybe you notice that you feel tired every time you stay up late scrolling on your phone. Or maybe you realize that you always feel nervous before speaking English in front of others. These small realizations are signs of self-awareness because you are noticing how your actions and emotions are connected.
Exactly, Julia. And I think one of the most powerful ways to build self-awareness is to start asking yourself gentle and simple questions every day, even if it's just 1 or 2 questions, because when you take time to reflect, even for just a few minutes, you start to build a deeper connection with your own mind and your own heart. You can ask yourself questions like, how do I feel today? Or, why did I get upset when that happened? Or, What is something I did well today? These small questions help you see your emotions more clearly, and they teach you to pause before reacting, which is a very important life skill that can also help you become a better learner, a better friend, and even a better English speaker.
Yes. And I also want to tell our listeners that self-awareness is not something you build in just one day or one week. It's a skill that grows slowly, just like your ability to speak English. At first, it might feel a little strange to look inside yourself and think about your thoughts or feelings, but with time, it becomes more natural and you start to notice patterns in your behavior. For example, maybe you discover that you feel more confident when you prepare before a conversation in English. Or maybe you realize that when you're tired, it's harder to focus on learning. These discoveries are very helpful because they guide you to make better decisions and create better habits, step by step.
That's so true, Julia. And I remember when I first started practicing self-awareness many years ago. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I started writing a short journal every night before bed, just to say how my day was and what I was feeling. And over time, I started noticing patterns, like how I was always more productive on the days when I exercised in the morning, or how I always felt sad when I skipped talking to my friends. These little notes helped me learn so much about myself, and that's when I really understood how powerful self-awareness can be. So, for our listeners, even if you only write 2 sentences in a notebook each day, or speak your thoughts out loud to yourself in English, that small action can help you understand yourself more and also help you practice English at the same time.
Yes, I love that, Adam. And I want to say to all of our wonderful listeners that you don't need to be an expert in English or psychology to practice self-awareness. You just need to be curious about your own thoughts and willing to listen to yourself in a kind and honest way. One fun way to start is to talk to yourself in English when you are alone. You can look in the mirror and say something like, "Today I feel happy because I talked to my friend," or "I feel tired because I didn't sleep enough last night." When you speak about your feelings, you are not only building your self-awareness, you are also improving your English speaking skills, which is amazing because you are growing in 2 ways at the same time.
That's such a smart idea, Julia. And I think that's the magic of personal development. It gives you more than one benefit at the same time. So now, let's do something fun with our listeners. If you are listening right now, we want you to repeat a few simple self-awareness sentences with us. I will say a sentence, then I will pause so you can repeat it, and then Julia will say the next one. Ready? I am learning more about myself every day. I understand my feelings better now. I am open to growing and changing. I listen to my thoughts with kindness.
I notice my habits and my actions. I ask myself helpful questions every day. I can improve my life step by step. I believe in my personal growth. Great job, everyone. Even if you are just repeating these sentences now for the first time, you are already building self-awareness, and you are also learning new vocabulary and sentence structure in English. That's why we always say, learning English can be more than just language. It can be about learning yourself and your life.
Well said, Julia. So now that we've explored the first pillar, self-awareness, and we've shared ideas, examples, and even practice sentences, it's time for us to move forward and discover the second pillar of a strong personal foundation. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it. The next pillar is one that many people find challenging, but it's also one of the most powerful when it comes to creating real change in your life. And that pillar is discipline. And sometimes you may fall or miss a day, and that's okay too, because discipline is not about never failing. It's about coming back after you fall and trying again, even if you feel disappointed or frustrated, because every time you stand back up and try again, you are becoming stronger inside, and your ability to continue grows little by little, like a seed becoming a tree over time. So don't be afraid of making mistakes or taking breaks when you need to rest. The key is to return to your goal and keep going forward with patience and determination.
That's right, Julia. And I want to remind our listeners that discipline doesn't mean doing big things all the time. It can start with very small and simple actions, like making your bed in the morning, saying your goals out loud, or learning just one new English word each day. These small actions may look easy or unimportant at first, but when you do them every day with consistency, they begin to create a rhythm in your life, and that rhythm gives you energy, confidence, and stability. You don't need to change your whole life in one day. You only need to start with one small thing and keep doing it until it becomes a natural part of who you are.
Yes, and one of the best examples I can share is from my own life because when I was learning a new language, I told myself, I will listen to 5 minutes of that language every day, no matter what. Sometimes I listened while walking, sometimes while cooking, and sometimes I just closed my eyes and listened before bed. And even though it felt small, after 1 month I could understand more. After 3 months, I could say simple sentences. And after 1 year, I felt much more comfortable. That progress didn't come from one big moment. It came from daily discipline, from showing up every day, even if I didn't feel like it.
That's a great example, Julia, and I think a lot of our listeners can learn from that story. If you want to become better at English or any skill, you don't need to study for hours every day. You just need to be consistent, and that's what discipline teaches us. Even on busy days, you can do a little. Even on bad days, you can do something small. And each time you do, you are telling yourself, I care about my future. And that message is powerful. It helps you feel more in control of your life and more hopeful about what's possible.
Exactly. And I want to say something very important here, especially for people who feel discouraged sometimes. You are not lazy if you struggle to stay disciplined. Many people find it difficult, especially at the beginning, because discipline is a skill you build, not something you are born with. The brain is like a muscle, and when you practice doing hard things, it gets stronger. If you miss a day, that's okay. If you forget, that's okay. Just come back and start again. Every time you restart, you are proving that you are serious about growing, and that's something to be proud of.
Yes, and another tip I'd love to share is that it helps to create a small reward for yourself when you complete a task. For example, if you finish your English practice for the day, maybe you can enjoy a piece of chocolate or take 5 minutes to relax and listen to music. These little rewards tell your brain, good job, let's do that again tomorrow. Discipline becomes easier when your brain feels happy after your effort. So make discipline something that feels good, not something that feels like a punishment.
That's such a smart tip, Adam. And here's another idea. Try to connect your discipline with your dreams. For example, if your dream is to travel to another country, remind yourself that learning English every day is part of that dream. If your dream is to get a better job, remember that daily effort brings you closer to that opportunity. When discipline is connected to purpose, it becomes more meaningful. You stop saying, I have to do this, and you start saying, I want to do this because I know why it matters.
I love that, Julia. So let's help our listeners practice some discipline-related sentences now. Everyone listening, you can say these sentences out loud with us. I'll say one, then I'll pause, and you can repeat it at home. Ready? I am learning to be disciplined, step by step. I show up for myself, even when it's hard. I believe in small actions every day. I keep going, even when I feel tired.
I am building strong habits every day. I trust myself to stay consistent. I choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. Discipline makes my life better. Great job, everyone. You are not just repeating words. You are training your brain to think in a new, powerful way. These simple sentences help build your mindset and also help improve your English speaking and listening.
Yes, and I hope everyone remembers that discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being committed. It's okay to feel lazy sometimes. It's okay to feel slow. But what matters most is that you don't give up. Keep showing up for yourself, just like you're doing right now by listening to this podcast and learning with us. That is discipline in action.
So now that we've explored the second pillar of a strong personal foundation, discipline, and we've talked about habits, effort, rewards, and mindset, It's time to move to the third pillar, which is something that brings love, kindness, and strength into your life and into your relationships, and that pillar is emotional intelligence.
Yes. Emotional intelligence is such an important skill for both personal success and learning languages. I can't wait to talk about it. So let's take a deep breath, get ready, and move forward with our journey of personal growth and English learning.
That's so true, Adam. And I think one of the best ways to increase your emotional intelligence is to practice something very simple every day, which is pausing before you react. Just taking a short moment to ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Or, why did this situation make me feel upset, nervous, or confused? Or even, what's the best way for me to respond to this moment without making the problem worse? Because when you give yourself time to stop and reflect before reacting, you train your mind to stay calm under pressure, and that makes you a stronger, more peaceful, and more understanding person, not only with others, but also with yourself.
Exactly, Julia, and I love how you explained that, because I think many people don't realize that emotional intelligence is not only about being nice or friendly, it's actually a powerful life skill that can help you succeed in school, in work, and in relationships. Because when you can stay calm during conflict, express yourself clearly without hurting others, and listen deeply to someone else's emotions without becoming defensive or angry, you become the kind of person that people trust, respect, and want to be around. And that kind of emotional strength creates opportunities and connections that can change your life in amazing ways.
Yes, and emotional intelligence is also very important when you are learning something new, especially when you are learning English, because it helps you stay confident and positive even when you make mistakes, forget words, or feel like giving up. Since instead of being hard on yourself or feeling embarrassed, you can say to yourself, okay, this is part of the process. And then take a breath, keep going, and remember that every person in the world makes mistakes when learning something new. And the most successful learners are not the ones who are perfect, but the ones who stay calm, learn from the mistake, and keep practicing with a good attitude.
And you know, Julia, when we talk about emotional intelligence in English learning, I think it also helps people communicate more clearly with others in conversations, because if you understand your own feelings, you can explain them more confidently in English. For example, saying things like, I feel nervous speaking English, or I don't understand this part. Can you help me? And when you are honest and emotionally aware, your conversations become more real, more human, and more powerful, because people don't only listen to your words, they also feel your attitude, your emotions, and your energy, and that makes communication much more meaningful.
That's a great point, Adam. And I'd like to add that emotional intelligence also helps with listening. Not just listening to words, but really listening to the feeling behind the words. Because sometimes someone might say, I'm okay, but you can hear in their voice that they're not really okay. And if you have emotional intelligence, you can notice that and gently ask, are you sure? You sound a little tired or sad. And by doing this, you show care and kindness. And that opens the door for deeper connection, which is very important in life, in friendships, and even in practicing English. Because when people feel safe and understood, they open up more, and that makes speaking and learning more enjoyable.
That's beautifully said, Julia. And I really believe that emotional intelligence is like the invisible thread that connects all the parts of a strong personal foundation. Because when you are emotionally aware, you know when you need rest, when you need motivation, when you need support, or when you need to step away from something. And that awareness helps you manage your time, your relationships, and your energy in a smarter, more peaceful way. So you're not constantly overwhelmed or stressed, but instead you move through life with balance, self-respect, and the ability to face difficult emotions without being controlled by them.
Yes, and to help our listeners build this pillar, let's practice some simple but powerful emotional intelligence affirmations together. Everyone listening, try to say these sentences out loud with us, because when you speak positive words, you begin to change the way you think. And when your thinking becomes strong and clear, your actions become stronger too.
I listen to my feelings with patience and kindness. I can stay calm even when life is difficult. I understand that every feeling is a message. I choose to respond wisely, not react with anger.
I respect other people's emotions and listen with care. I am learning to speak with both honesty and kindness. My feelings help me grow stronger and smarter. I stay peaceful and focused, even in stressful moments.
Great job, everyone. Remember, these are not just words you're saying. These are new thoughts you're planting in your mind, and with time, those thoughts grow into powerful habits that make your emotional world stronger, more balanced, and more supportive of your personal and language goals.
Absolutely. And I hope all of you know that emotional intelligence is something you can build, step by step, by being more aware of how you feel, how you treat others, and how you respond to difficult situations, because the more you practice, the more it becomes natural. And just like learning English, it may feel difficult at first, but with time and effort, it becomes easier, and eventually, it becomes part of who you are.
So now, dear listeners, we've explored 3 powerful pillars of a strong personal foundation: self-awareness, discipline, and emotional intelligence. And up next, we're going to dive into the 4th pillar, which is something that helps you grow through every challenge, learn from every failure, and move forward with courage even when life gets tough. And that pillar is called resilience.
Yes, and I'm really excited for that one, Adam, because resilience is like your personal inner strength. It's the part of you that doesn't give up, even when everything feels hard. So let's take a deep breath, get ready, and continue this beautiful journey of learning, growing, and improving our English together.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the 4th and very important pillar of building a strong personal foundation. And this one is something that each and every one of us needs if we want to grow through challenges, keep moving forward when life gets hard, and become stronger and wiser after facing failure, difficulty, or disappointment. And that powerful pillar is called resilience, which means the ability to bounce back, to recover, and to continue going even when things don't go as planned, even when we feel tired or discouraged, and even when we feel like giving up. Because resilient people are not people who never fall. They are people who keep getting up, no matter how many times they fall down.
Yes, Adam, and I think it's really important for our listeners to understand that resilience is not something that only special people are born with. It's something that can be developed, trained, and strengthened over time, just like a muscle. And the more we practice it, the more we discover that we are capable of handling pressure, solving problems, and staying calm even during difficult or painful experiences. And that kind of inner strength helps us not only survive hard times, but also grow through them and become even more prepared for whatever comes next in life.
That's absolutely right, Julia. And when I think about resilience, I think about all the moments when I felt like I was failing, when something I wanted didn't happen, when I studied hard and still didn't get the result I hoped for, or when I tried something new and made a mistake. But instead of letting that failure stop me or make me feel hopeless, I slowly learned to say, "This is hard, yes, but I will try again. I will learn from this, and I will keep going." And over time, that mindset became my strength, because it taught me that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. And the more I failed and learned, the closer I came to reaching my goals.
Yes. And I love what you said, Adam, especially because in language learning, resilience is one of the most important skills to have. Because it's very normal to feel frustrated when you forget a word you studied, or when you try to speak and can't find the right phrase, or when you listen to a native speaker and don't understand everything. But if you are resilient, you can say to yourself, "This is part of the journey, and I don't need to be perfect. I just need to keep going." And that positive inner voice is what helps you stay motivated, keep practicing, and finally reach fluency, step by step, even when it feels slow or difficult.
Exactly, and one thing that really helps build resilience is changing the way you talk to yourself in hard times. Because most of the time, people don't give up because of the problem itself. They give up because of the story they tell themselves about the problem. So if you say to yourself, "I can't do this, I'm terrible at English, I will never be fluent," then of course you will feel weak, tired, and ready to quit. But if you change your words and say, "This is hard, but I'm learning, I'm improving, and I will get better with time," then even though the challenge is still there, your energy and your confidence grow, and that makes you strong enough to keep going.
And I would also add that resilient people don't try to do everything alone. They ask for help when they need it. They find support from friends, teachers, or even podcasts like this one, and they remind themselves that needing help is not weakness. It is wisdom, because we all need support sometimes. And learning how to ask for help, how to take a break, and how to be kind to yourself during difficult times is also part of being resilient. So, if you are listening now and you feel tired, lost, or like giving up, please know that this is not the end of your story. It is just one chapter, and the best way forward is not to give up, but to take one small step, then another, and then another, until you look back and realize how far you've come.
That's a powerful message, Julia, and I hope all our listeners really take that to heart, because resilience is not about being strong all the time. It's about learning to stand again after you fall and saying to yourself, "Yes, I struggled. Yes, I was hurt. Yes, I made mistakes, but I'm still here. I'm still trying, and I still believe in my future." And when you can say that to yourself honestly, when you can feel that strength rising inside you even in the middle of the storm, then you know you have built a strong foundation that will support you for the rest of your life.
Yes, and as always, we want to leave you with a few simple affirmations that you can say out loud with us, so that these words can become part of your thinking, and so that you can build resilience not just in your mind, but in your actions, your habits, and your heart.
I am strong even when life is hard. I rise again every time I fall. I learn from every mistake I make. I trust that my future will be better because I keep trying.
I am building my strength step by step. I never give up on my dreams. I am growing through every challenge I face. My resilience is bigger than my fear.
Great job, friends. Take a moment to breathe, to feel the strength inside you, and to remember that no matter what happens, you are not alone, and you are capable of overcoming more than you ever thought possible.
Yes, and now that we've explored the fourth pillar, resilience, we are ready to move into the final one, which connects all the others together and helps you live with more meaning, more connection, and more inner peace. And that last pillar is purpose. All right, dear listeners, now that we have explored the first four powerful pillars, self-awareness, discipline, emotional intelligence, and resilience, we are ready to move into the final pillar, which is something that brings direction to your journey, gives your actions a deeper meaning, and helps you stay motivated through both easy and difficult times. And that is the fifth pillar of a strong personal foundation, which we call purpose. Because having a clear sense of purpose means that you understand why you are doing what you're doing, what you truly care about in life, and what kind of person you want to become as you move forward, grow, and build your future.
Yes, Julia. And what's really powerful about purpose is that it acts like your personal compass. It gives you direction, it reminds you of your goals, and it helps you stay focused on what really matters, especially when life gets busy, when you feel confused, or when you face obstacles that make you want to stop, because if you have no purpose, then even a small difficulty can feel heavy and pointless. But if you do have purpose, even a big challenge feels meaningful, because you know in your heart that this journey, this work, this practice is leading you somewhere important, somewhere that matters deeply to you, and that makes all the difference in how you think, how you act, and how you live your life.
Absolutely, and I think it's important to say that purpose doesn't always mean a big, dramatic life mission or something that sounds impressive to other people. It can also be something small but personal, something quiet but powerful, like wanting to take care of your family, wanting to improve yourself every day, wanting to become a kind and helpful person, or simply wanting to grow, learn, and make the most of the life you've been given. And when you take time to think about your purpose, and when you connect your daily actions to that purpose, suddenly everything you do begins to feel more meaningful. Even simple things like studying, working, or practicing English. Because you know that each small step is connected to a bigger dream.
That's right. And I'd like to share something personal. When I first started learning languages and helping other people learn English, I didn't know exactly where it would take me. But I knew one thing. I wanted to help people feel confident, free, and proud when they speak. And that simple purpose became the reason I kept going, even when it was hard, even when I felt nervous or unsure, and even when I didn't get quick results. Because purpose gives you a reason to keep showing up, to keep learning, and to keep believing in the future you want to create. And that kind of deep, personal motivation is something that no outside reward can replace.
Yes, Adam. And for our listeners, I want to say this clearly. If you are learning English right now, your purpose might be to get a better job, to travel and talk with people from around the world, to study in another country, or maybe to express yourself more freely and confidently. But whatever your reason is, hold it in your heart, write it down, speak it out loud, and remind yourself of it every day, especially on the days when it feels hard, because that purpose is your fuel, your power, and your light in dark moments. And the more clearly you understand why you are learning, the stronger and more focused you will become.
That's such a good reminder, Julia, and I think it's also important to know that purpose doesn't have to be perfect or permanent. It can grow and change with time, just like we do. So don't be afraid if your purpose feels small at first or if it changes later, because the key is to have something meaningful that keeps you grounded and inspired right now. And even if that purpose is simply, I want to improve my life step by step, or I want to be proud of myself. That's enough to begin. Because once you start moving with purpose, the journey begins to guide you, and new doors, new ideas, and new dreams begin to appear along the way.
Yes. And one way to connect more deeply with your purpose is to ask yourself some simple but powerful questions like, what makes me feel alive? Or, what do I enjoy doing even when it's difficult? Or, who do I want to help in my life? Or, what kind of future would make me proud? And when you take time to reflect on these questions, you begin to hear your own inner voice. And that voice is often very wise, very honest, and very connected to the true purpose that lives inside you, even if it's been quiet or hidden for a long time.
And another great way to strengthen your purpose is to imagine the future version of yourself, the person you want to become, and then ask yourself, what kind of thoughts, habits, and actions does that future version of me do every day? Because once you can see that future clearly in your mind, you can begin to act like that person today, even in small ways. And every time you do, you get closer and closer to becoming the person you were meant to be. And that process of becoming someone greater through small daily actions is one of the most meaningful and powerful things you can do with your life.
That's beautiful, Adam. And to help our listeners connect with this idea even more, let's say a few positive affirmations together, just like we've done with the other pillars. So if you're listening right now, try to repeat these sentences after us and let the words become part of your thinking, because words are powerful. And the more you speak positive words, the more you build a life that reflects them.
I have a purpose, and it gives my life meaning. My daily actions are connected to my dreams. I am becoming the person I want to be. Even small steps take me closer to my goal.
My purpose gives me strength when life is hard. I follow my heart, and I trust my journey. I am proud of who I am and who I am becoming. Every day I live with meaning, hope, and direction.
Beautiful. Thank you everyone for repeating those words with us, and I hope you take a few minutes today to reflect on your purpose. Write it down, say it out loud, or just sit quietly with it in your heart. Because when you live with purpose, you become not just stronger, but also more peaceful, more focused, and more connected to the life you truly want to live.
And now that we've explored all 5 pillars of a strong personal foundation, self-awareness, discipline, emotional intelligence, resilience, and purpose, we hope you feel more inspired, more confident, and more motivated not just to improve your English, but to grow as a person, to build a stronger future, and to live with more intention, balance, and courage every single day.
Yes. And when we talk about discipline, which is our second pillar, we can connect that directly to your daily study habits, because a lot of people start learning English with big dreams and great excitement, but they don't create strong, regular routines that support their goals, and so after a few days or weeks, they start to feel tired, unmotivated, or distracted by other things in life. But when you make a personal commitment to yourself, when you promise that even on busy days you will study English for just 30 minutes or repeat a few vocabulary words or listen to a podcast on the way to work, then you begin to develop a deep inner discipline that doesn't depend on motivation or mood. And that kind of steady, daily action is what leads to true, lasting progress in any area of life, especially in language learning, because the brain learns best when it receives regular, focused attention over time.
Exactly. And that brings us to the third pillar, which is emotional intelligence. And I think this one is often overlooked by language learners, but it is actually very important because learning a language is not only a mental process, it is also an emotional journey where you will feel nervous, excited, embarrassed, frustrated, proud, confused, and sometimes even discouraged. And if you don't know how to recognize and manage these emotions in a healthy way, you might give up too early, or you might speak less because you're afraid of making mistakes. But if you practice emotional intelligence by noticing your feelings, being kind to yourself, and choosing to keep going even when you feel shy or insecure, then you build the kind of mindset that allows you to grow without fear and to celebrate progress without needing to be perfect, which is such a powerful skill, not just for English learning, but for relationships, careers, and all areas of your personal life.
That's absolutely true. And when we come to the fourth pillar, resilience, we really begin to see how strong personal foundations can help you move through the hard parts of learning English. Because resilience means you don't stop when something feels difficult, or when you don't understand a lesson the first time, or when you make mistakes in front of other people. Instead, you breathe, you learn from the experience, and you come back stronger the next day. And over time, that resilience builds confidence, because every time you face a challenge and don't give up, you are sending a message to your mind that says, I can do hard things. And that belief becomes a powerful engine that helps you keep going through months and years of study until one day you look back and realize how far you've come just by being strong enough to continue when things weren't easy.
Yes. And finally, when we look at the fifth pillar, which is purpose, we can clearly see how it brings everything together. Because when you have a deep reason for learning English, maybe it's to get a better job, to travel and speak confidently, to connect with people from different cultures, or even just to grow personally and feel proud of yourself, then every moment of study, every difficult word, and every long listening practice becomes meaningful. Because you know exactly why you are doing it. And that why gives you strength, energy, and focus, especially on the days when you feel tired, bored, or unsure. And the beautiful thing about purpose is that it turns ordinary tasks into meaningful steps on a powerful journey. And when you walk your path with purpose, even small steps become important victories.
So, if you are listening to this podcast right now, and you are trying to improve your English, we want to remind you that this journey is not just about words and grammar and pronunciation. It is also a journey of building yourself, of growing stronger from the inside. And if you build your 5 pillars, self-awareness, discipline, emotional intelligence, resilience, and purpose, then you are not just building your language skills, you are building a life that is filled with confidence, direction, and strength. And that kind of growth is something no one can ever take away from you because it lives inside you and it travels with you wherever you go.
So far, we've spent a lot of time talking about how these 5 powerful pillars, self-awareness, discipline, emotional intelligence, resilience, and purpose, can help someone improve their English learning journey. But now I want to take this conversation to a higher level and show how these same 5 pillars can also help you in other parts of your life, like building strong relationships, achieving your goals, managing your time, and becoming the kind of person who feels confident, calm, and ready to face the world no matter what happens around you. Because real personal development is not something you only use in one small part of life. It's something that touches everything you do, from the way you wake up in the morning to the way you handle stress at work, and even how you talk to your family or make big decisions about your future.
That's such a great point, Julia, because the truth is, when you grow stronger on the inside, when you build those 5 pillars like strong walls that support your life, then even if things go wrong outside of you, like problems with money, relationships, health, or stress, you are still able to stay calm, think clearly, and move forward step by step. And that kind of strength does not come from luck or talent. It comes from building your inner foundation slowly over time, with patience and practice. And that's why these pillars are so important, not only for students or English learners, but for every person who wants to live with confidence, peace, and a deep sense of direction and purpose.
Let's talk first about self-awareness and how it helps in daily life, because when you become more aware of your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, you begin to understand why you react a certain way in stressful situations, why you feel motivated or unmotivated at certain times, and even how your past experiences affect the way you make choices today. And this kind of deep understanding helps you become more honest with yourself and more careful with your time and energy. So instead of doing things just because other people expect you to, you begin to do things that are right for you. And that is how you create a life that feels authentic, meaningful, and peaceful, instead of busy, confusing, or full of regret.
Yes. And when we look at discipline from a life perspective, not just from a study perspective, we see that it is one of the most important skills anyone can have, because discipline gives you the power to do what is important, even when you don't feel like doing it. And that's the difference between people who only dream about their goals and the people who actually reach them, because success in any area, whether it's health, career, education, or family, requires small, consistent actions every day, and those actions often feel boring, difficult, or repetitive. But when you have discipline, you don't give up. You stay focused. You create strong habits. And over time, those habits build the life you truly want.
And now we come to emotional intelligence, which in my opinion is something every human being needs in order to have healthy relationships, both at work and in their personal life. Because when you understand how emotions work, you become much better at listening to other people, managing stress, staying calm in arguments, and expressing your own thoughts in a way that is respectful and kind. And this helps you become a better friend, a better partner, a better teammate, and even a better leader, because people naturally trust and respect those who can stay calm, listen deeply, and handle emotional situations with maturity and care.
And now let's take a deeper look at resilience, because in real life, things often don't go the way we plan. Sometimes we lose a job, sometimes people disappoint us, sometimes we face illness, or we fail at something we worked hard for. And during those times, the people who bounce back quickly and keep moving forward are not the ones who never fall down, but the ones who know how to get back up again, learn from the experience, and try again with even more wisdom. And that kind of strength only comes from practicing resilience over time, which is why it's one of the most powerful pillars for building not only success, but also peace, patience, and personal strength that lasts even through the hardest moments of life.
And finally, we reach the pillar of purpose, which is like the guiding light in your life, the reason you get up in the morning and work hard, the reason you make difficult choices, and the reason you keep going when things feel heavy or unclear. Because when you know your purpose, when you know what matters to you deeply and truly, then you stop living on autopilot and start living with direction. And even if you face delays, distractions, or doubts, you still keep walking forward because you know exactly where you want to go and why. And when you live with that kind of clarity and vision, life becomes not just something you survive, but something you create, something you lead, and something that feels fulfilling no matter what.
So, my friends, the 5 pillars of a strong personal foundation are not just ideas you listen to once and forget. They are tools you can carry with you and use every single day, in every single area of your life. Whether you are learning English, starting a new job, building a relationship, or simply trying to feel happier, calmer, and more confident in who you are. And when you build these pillars with care, with time, and with love, you build a life that feels stable, meaningful, and unshakable, even when storms come.
As we come to the end of this long and meaningful conversation, we want to thank every one of our listeners who stayed with us from the beginning until now. Because taking the time to listen, reflect, and learn shows that you are serious about your personal growth, and it shows that you care not only about learning English, but also about becoming the kind of person who lives with purpose, strength, and confidence. And that kind of mindset is exactly what will take you far in life, no matter where you live, what your background is, or what your goals may be.
Yes. And if there's one final message we want to leave with you today, it's this. Your life is like a house. And just like a strong house needs a strong foundation to stand tall and survive storms, your life also needs a foundation built on powerful, stable values like self-awareness, discipline, emotional intelligence, resilience, and purpose. Because these are the things that stay with you even when everything else around you changes. And when you build your foundation strong, you begin to live with more courage, more focus, and more peace, and that is something truly powerful.
And remember, you don't have to build all 5 pillars in one day. You can take small steps, little by little, day by day, by asking yourself honest questions, practicing simple habits, being patient with yourself, and choosing to keep growing even when life feels busy or hard. And over time, those small steps will become big changes, and you will become someone who not only speaks better English, but also lives a better, deeper, and more fulfilling life from the inside out.
Before we say goodbye, we want to encourage you to take a few moments today to think about your own 5 pillars, to ask yourself which ones are already strong and which ones you want to grow more. And if you feel inspired, you can even write them down in your notebook or say them out loud in English as a way to practice your speaking and thinking skills. Because using English to talk about your real thoughts and goals is one of the best ways to become fluent and confident at the same time.
And if this episode helped you, even in a small way, we would love it if you shared it with a friend, a classmate, or someone who might need a little motivation or encouragement today, because learning and growing is always more powerful when we do it together. And we believe that with the right support, every learner can succeed and shine in their own beautiful way.
So thank you again for listening to the English Globe. Thank you for sharing your time and energy with us. And most of all, thank you for choosing to grow, to learn, and to become the best version of yourself. One step at a time, one word at a time, and one day at a time.
Until next time, keep building your foundation, keep learning, and keep believing in yourself, because you are stronger than you think, and your journey has just begun.
Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, and keep going. You're doing amazing.